What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Essential Scares. I am your host, Corbin. With me today is Bobby.
I messed up trimming my beard. We're not going to talk about it.
Ben.
I'm really excited to talk Justin and Kelly today. Sponsored by Barks Root Beer.
And Alan.
We're definitely going to talk about it, but good evening.
We have got...
I have to stress one thing. We are not sponsored by Barks Root Beer.
Yet. Barks, if you're listening, our DMs are open.
Its bark is better than its bite.
We've got a great episode for you today. We are going to be talking about Fear Street 1666 and a little bit about the trilogy as a whole. If you've been listening or watching, we've done now all 3 of the Fear Street movies as they've come out, so we're ready to finish it up. But before we get into it, as always, Bobby has a spoiler warning.
This will serve as your first one and only spoiler warning for Fear Street 1666, as well as the entire Fear Street trilogy, as we will no doubt be talking about all 3 movies today. If you don't want any of those movies spoiled for you, go to our spoiler-free discussion. If you want those movies spoiled for you in their individual forms, go back to the last 2 episodes. They're both really good. Fear Street 1666. Huh. I get it like the devil's number. Corbin?
So, I think that this whole trilogy of movies has this issue where it never fully feels like it's the era that it's set in. But I think my favorite portion of that is when they set this movie in 1666 in a location where it just could not have possibly be set in 1666.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me, but it was like, I mean, we all know, guys. We all know.
Yeah, we had a much more robust colony system.
Yeah. So let's break this into kind of like 2 parts, right? So the movie is in 2 halves. The 1666 portion and then the 1994 Part 2 portion. So just talking about 1666 first, what did you think? Did you like it?
I liked it a lot.
Yeah?
I liked it a lot. Yeah, there were a lot of really cool moments. It felt more tragic than it did scary in a lot of ways, right? Because it's Sarah Fear and...
Solomon Good.
No.
Hannah, I think her name was?
Oh, yeah, Hannah Miller.
The Sam and Dina. The thing.
Analog,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, hey, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you. Right. There's a lot of, like, legitimate tragedy there. Like, again, one of the first notes I wrote was history is gay, hell yeah. Because, like, it's just, like their relationship is much more pure than, like, say, Sam and Dina's is, right? Yeah. Like, there's a lot more stuff there, right? Yeah. Probably because it was forbidden to the point of, like, being burnt on a stake, right? Or at that point, because, homophobia is awful. But, like, there are some, like, moments, right, where, like, characters who have either grown to love or hate throughout the last, who are, like, more, shady cider type characters, like they're like ancestors you see in a really interesting kind of way. Like Thomas is fucking gross, and the dude who's like fake Peter, I think his name's Caleb, is still just awful. And there's just this like
I didn't catch that.
I was gonna
Peter.
say Ben didn't notice. The
dude who tries to rape Anna. Oh yeah,
did not catch that was Peter. I caught just about everybody else, but did not catch that was Peter. That's awesome.
Yeah. Like they're just like these. It was just really cool, especially because like you've been watching all 3 of these movies. You get to see all of these actors, and it's just like this very like hell yeah. Like it's almost like this backwards culmination of you understanding the history of this little town, which I really liked a lot. The scares don't really happen until like the very end of the 1666 bit, which is
I mean, and even
fine.
then, like I think that was probably my biggest issue with the 1660. I have two main problems with the 1666 portion, and I did like it overall. But I think my number one problem is that like it's not scary and it doesn't even try to be. I think that they walk away from the genre pretty hard at times, and I know why. I feel like I understand why they did it, but I don't know if it was worth it. I think that there was probably a way to do that portion and lean into the colonial horror a little more. They kind of play with it a little bit during the plague section, and like I rewatched the 16 just that part, the 1666 half again, and it feels like it suffers a little bit from being only half of a movie. I think that I think that they definitely could have like built up more to certain scenes to make the horror more there. I don't know. I liked the story elements of it, but it does kind of feel like they felt like they needed to do the background of it, and they prioritized that over the genre. That's how I felt about it.
Would you say... Go for it.
Adding on to that, I was talking before the show about how I kind of wish that Noah Cyrus would have come back, just because that's been a common through line with all of the other killers we've been with so far.
Yeah.
And he's the only one, and it's weird him being the progenitor, that's not the case for. Now, granted, you know, there's years and years and years of history of killers we never saw, so...
Yeah, we do only see killers, like the most recent ones, like maybe only see a certain... the last 8
like the past,
or whatever.
Yeah. So it would have been nice for him to come back in some capacity, because I think that would have added to the horror elements, being able to really start going into that a bit more. And I mean, imagine you figure like colonial horror, these people see this person who they watched die, they're going to think witchcraft even harder. You can tie that into what you already were building there, but you need more time, like you're saying there, to really bring that in through the 1666.
You're talking about him getting back up in the 1666 portion.
Yeah.
I thought you meant
him doing like a Ryan Torres
in the new portion.
No, I was thinking. I'm saying if they were going to go down the road of having a longer 1666 portion, that would be a good way to
for sure
kind of increase that, is to bring him back as they did with the other killers.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I think it would have been a cool moment, but I think part of what makes the 1666 bit not scary, but it is deeply unsettling.
Correct.
Like in a weird like drama type way, right? Where again, like when you see a lot of period piece horror, they do this type of thing, where it's very much like watching an entire town just decide to find somebody to kill for a crime that the person was already dead for. They can't blame the pastor because the pastor is their conduit to God, right? So they have to find somebody, anybody to be a witch. And some asshole who got made fun of for having a hard-on at the dance the night before blames the two lesbian chicks who just want to live in peace. Right, and then that becomes the whole thing, right? That is like a deeply unsettling concept, and one that is like all throughout history for a very long time was like the lynching and murdering of people for just being people. It sometimes does not work because and I think the only reason why it doesn't work is because you've grown to expect a certain slasher quality from the Fear Street movies, and this is decidedly not that.
Yeah,
right?
That was actually my second point about like what I didn't like about 1666 is like I would have much preferred a consistent genre through line, and I think that there was this opportunity to do a really cool colonial slasher, which is something I've never seen before, because usually colonial horror is this same kind of style, right? Unsettling, slow burn, and this is definitely a teen version of that genre, right? But I was looking for something new, I guess, and I felt like what I got was like a watered down version of a genre I already liked, and it's like, okay, but
do you think it works? Do you think it captures the period piece horror tone? Because I think it kind of did a good job. Personally.
I think it was okay.
For half of a movie's worth of like film, I think it did tell a story that was like pretty complete, and like it worked. And I think part of the reason why it worked is because we were given context throughout the entirety of the last two movies, right? With the, like, Sarah Fear, she was wicked with her wicked hand. So you have this idea of, like, you're already expecting her to, like, at some point cast a curse. And in reality, she's just, like...
Scapegoat. I mean,
yeah, she's
what
just a
she
scapegoat,
is.
right? And so it already, like, builds up this drama so much for the past two movies. You're looking for something. And then when you find out that, like, Solomon Good is the real bad guy, which, fun fact, Corbin got right week one, and I've been wrong this entire goddamn time about, so...
Maggie,
I
my
called
wife,
it too.
100% called it right, like a solid 5 minutes before they reveal it to you. She's like, "Oh, it's gonna be him," and the moment she said it, I was like, "Fuck, you're right." Like the moment she pointed it out to me, I'm like, "Oh, well, it's so obvious."
Yeah.
I was so mad because I saw the house. Because the house has, like, the chimney, and I'm like, fuck, I'm so wrong about everything all the time.
I'm not sure I said it on the 1994 episode of Essential Scares podcast. Go to essentialscares.com/FearStreet1994.
It's not there. Just not there.
And I'm not sure I said it on that episode, but, like, when I was watching Fear Street 1994, I was like, oh, Nick Good's the bad guy. Like, that's the thing. Like, he's the bad guy.
It's
and then it
telegraphed
was like,
pretty strongly.
well, right.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I'm like, I guess he's not the bad guy. And then in 76, I'm like, all right, well, he's not the bad guy, I guess. And this one is like, he was the bad guy.
On top of that, the other reveal with him that kind of got me is when they showed the kid version of Nick, or the teenage version of Nick.
I let so many people die tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that got me too, because I don't know why I didn't go, oh, well, of course, the teenage version of him also did. And it's hindsight 2020 here,
Yeah.
because his dad died. We didn't necessarily know he was going to be given this responsibility. That's a bad way to
He
phrase
was the
that.
heir to the
That's the
throne.
word
He
to
said it
use.
so many
Yeah,
times during 76.
Yes, looking back, they line it up. They drop a lot of breadcrumbs for you.
So
to
I have
pick up
one.
on.
I have one question for you, Alan. Before we
Yeah.
come back to the colonial bit, when you learned that Nick Good was the baddie, and that he saved Ziggy through the power of witchcraft, did that not make you feel better about CPR for a knife wound?
And him being cut
Honestly,
open.
yes, because
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah,
point
and his
of
his
whole
leg
lineage
wound.
of his family
Yeah.
is they literally have plot armor, effectively. I mean,
It
It's-
really did close that dumb hole that you thought was
look,
open.
it was a dumb hole, and they closed it. I'm glad
What
that
I
they
told you,
did
it
close
was just a little nick. Okay, I told you last
It
week.
wasn't
little
even.
Nick.
It wasn't even real.
Wasn't even real.
Well, oh, it was real. He got, but it didn't matter because he had the power of the devil, basically.
Power
Yes,
of God
that's the
and
guy.
anime on his side.
Yeah. Oh no.
Power of Satan,
Um,
Satan.
So one thing we pointed out about the two women who just want to be lesbians and live together,
An
they're very-
obvious impossibility in 1666, by the way.
Not obvious impossibility.
but like
They could just be old spinster roommates,
a line
but they're really not.
stuck out to me, and it was from, I think Anna said, they think we are guilty, so we are. And I
Anna.
think that's a pretty powerful social commentary, whether or not they were trying to say it.
They absolutely were trying to say.
They
Oh,
were,
that was
yeah.
but that was one of those things and then hold on. I wrote down coming from a black character, so it was not
Even-
Anna, it was
Sarah.
Even
which
though
technically
she's
was Sarah,
actually,
but you know what I mean.
She's
It's just
actually a
that's-
white character. Sarah is, but
Yes.
we see her as
Yes.
Dina.
But
that
it's
kind of-
still, yeah.
Yeah,
I
don't know how I
think that
felt
is
about
the
that.
reason why the first half of this movie worked so well. I think that if they had used a completely different cast of characters to play these, like a completely different set of actors to play these characters, I don't think that it would have pulled us in as well as it did. I think the fact that all of these characters that we were watching through the first half of this were obviously not the same character, but they were the same actor. Like, when Kate shows up, and it's like, oh, you're Kate, but you're not Kate. Like, I have emotions for that actress. Or when Ziggy and Cindy show up as Abigail and whatever, it's like, and they're acting the exact same way that Ziggy and Cindy acted. It's like,
Yeah.
You know,
or when you see Josh without eyeballs, even though it's not Josh, right? Like,
Yeah.
like you're absolutely right. I kind of was talking about this earlier, but like I think you really nailed that point of like, yeah, like the fact that like fucking Kate and Simon,
Yeah.
they're barely even characters in this movie. They're essentially in this film glorified extras, but
Yeah.
like you still give a shit about those two colonial kids.
But I think
And
the
you're
important part of those characters, sorry to cut you off,
No, you're
is
fine.
I mean they are a key portion in the events of the future by moving Sarah's body. I mean,
Yeah.
they have those characters effectively set in motion the events of 1994 in a way
Very true.
by their actions in 1666. So and of course it's good that it's those kind of same characters that are
Yeah.
involved. It's the through lines that they were able to draw between specifically 94 and 1666 with that character crossover with actors is really interesting because we never get to see something like this in other horror franchises, and it's not necessarily those horror franchises' fault because they're generally have been made at completely different times, whereas this had the benefit of effectively one production through and through. So they're able to craft the story, I think, in a way where they're able to think forward better than other similar franchises in the horror genre. So I think that's a big benefit of the way they just made these movies in general, and the trilogy as a whole.
Yeah. I also think it is that like it still saves room for these side stories, which I like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
even in this one, like they added 2 more, right? Because at the very, very end, obviously, it's open for a sequel.
Yeah.
And then in the very, very beginning, the witch, Widow Mary, like she is a witch. Like there is room for a 1666 prequel if they wanted to with her. I don't think that they'll explore that though. I think we'll get other.
I mean,
things.
they also have a
I don't
wall
think
of
they
20
need to.
names that they can make movies for. Also,
Yeah, exactly.
because they don't even exactly like make her Widow Mary out to be like a witch in like a really negative way. They mean it like in like she's just a woman who like lives in the wilds because she doesn't want to be around people. Like she doesn't even like that she has the devil's book. She just keeps it safe.
Exactly. Like she doesn't do anything witchy or magical. Like she just owns things, but you don't actually know that what she does with them. Nothing.
Well, I mean, Sarah's character, Sarah/Dina and Hannah/Sam, along with, I don't know what Kate's name was, 1666. But when those 3 characters are going to Widow Mary's hut, to get the berries that are probably just juiced with LSD, who knows?
They're mushrooms.
Like, Kate's character was explained, or maybe Kate was talking smack about Widow Mary, and then Sarah Fear was like, no, she fell in love with a native man and like just learned their medicine, basically. And like, oh, well, white colonials would think that what Native Americans were doing was witchcraft or whatever.
What the fuck you trying to say?
To be fair, she did have that devil book. Like there was.
She did have that goddamn devil book.
She did. You're right.
I think
the devil.
Reaching back a little bit, I think I also really liked them using the other actors. It made me think a lot of American Horror Story that does that really successfully.
Okay.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would have liked to be a little bit different is like Sarah Fear. I think I would have liked to have actual scenes or half scenes or whatever with the other actors that they clearly had for Sarah Fear, because the movies make this implication that Dina is seeing those events from Sarah Fear's eyes, and I would have liked the 1666 portion to reinforce that by kind of flipping around between them a little bit rather than just those little flashes at the very end of
pulling
it.
an Exorcist 3.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I think that would have really worked.
I
didn't even think about wanting it until the end of the portion when they show the other actress. And then I was like, okay, I think we could have utilized
I get
this.
the sense that they may have wanted to do that, but maybe that Sarah Fear's actress was not up to the part, because there were moments where it's clearly that they were doing this back and forth thing, even at just the end. So it kind of Let's go. Did they? And I could be wrong. They could have just let
Could
it
be
that way
any,
because
any number of reasons. Yeah.
I mean, Dina's actress does a really good job.
I want to give her props. She's way better in the 1666 parts than she is in either of the 94 parts.
I think it's a different character. I think Dina. I think you don't like Dina, so then the actress, you're like, she's not doing that job because I don't like her. Because you don't have to like Dina. But you like Sarah Fear because Sarah Fear is just like, she's just a fucking she's a decent human being. And Dina's not bad. She's just.
I mean, even outside of the Dina / Sarah Fear character, I think everyone's performances in the 1666 portion kind of outshined their modern day performances. Like the accent work, I thought, was
it was bad. It was bad, but it was fun. I
don't think it was that bad. It was way better than what I expected it to be.
I think people give people doing period work more of a pass than they do modern work.
Do they sound like they're not from today? Good enough.
Can they say the lines that are said in Old English dialect without it sounding forced? Yes. Okay. So then they did fine, right? I'm not hating on the thought, Ben, but I think that all of the actors and actresses had a really consistent performance throughout all three films.
At no point in time did I think it was bad.
Okay,
I will say
that. I absolutely agree with you.
Alan, do you have a point that you're sitting on? I feel like
the whole when our Sarah Fear character, when she just realizes, fuck it, they want a witch, I'll give them a witch. I loved that. I love the idea of just embrace it. If I can't live and be the person I want to be, then I will be the person you think I am. I love that as a concept.
I wish they went a little
it's an empowerment.
Yeah.
It's you watch it and you kind of wish she did do something witchy. Actually get to do something menacing.
She clearly did do something, but how?
I thought that was the turn, though. I'm like, oh, Sarah Fear's a good person, and then she's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna give them a witch. They want a witch, I'm gonna give them a witch, and I'm like, okay, here we go.
Well,
and,
okay. So when we talk about deals with the devil, right?
You want me to call them real quick?
There's always rules, I think, that exist. And it's possible, right? They don't really outwardly say it, but it's possible that, her cursing the guy who made the deal with the devil was a pact in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
you
eventually,
almost have to assume,
which it doesn't. It doesn't feel like that's much of a leap, right? Where whether it's a pact with God or the devil or whatever else it might be, that is something that happens, right? There's a reason why there's magic in the moment, and Solomon's scared even though she's being hung and murdered by her peers. There is. I feel like that's pretty clear, and that's why she can do the with her bones and shit.
I also thought it was really powerful when she was like, I don't fear the devil, I fear the neighbor that would kill you for whatever. And that whole line, that whole scene, I was like, man, this is people suck. This is bad. I get it. Sure.
Hey, fuck anything that requires hatred to believe in it. Let's just get that on the table, right?
For sure.
But because I mean, right? That's kind of that's the scary bit. Is that I don't fear the devil. I fear the neighbor who would kill.
Man is the real monster.
Yeah.
Woo!
'Twas beauty that killed the beast. But what? Let's move on to the 1994 bit. I think.
One thing we got to mention before we go there.
Okay, go for
All of these movies have one scene of phenomenal gore. We cannot skip on the hand cut off.
That was really good.
We can't miss that. Every one of them has something real good.
Dude,
we also got the stab through and the fight, and you're like, oh my god, she just got stabbed. What's gonna happen? And then it snaps. Oh my god, it's not as good as 94. It's not. But it's real good.
It's okay. So 94's Kate kill is a cooler moment Sarah Fear getting her hand cut off is way more fucking gross, and I was much more like, fucking no! Like, with Kate, you're like, no! Like, and it's a much more, like, heart-sinking experience. Sarah Fear getting her hand fucking, like, I don't know, gored off. It's
twisted,
like, no.
broken.
Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, yeah.
We also didn't talk about the first serial killer, Cyrus Miller, and the room full of fucking kids with their eyes cut
That
out.
was but that goes to that unsettling imagery, I think.
Like,
that's less scary, but more like, oh,
Yeah, because
fuck.
you don't really see, you don't really see it.
also, how did this dude kill like 20 kids with no one hearing like the screaming of the kids? Or like, why aren't like the second he goes to,
yeah.
but the second he goes to kill one kid, why weren't the other 19 kids like the fuck? And like,
He's the
they're not just
pastor in
gonna
a
sit
position.
there.
He's the pastor in a position of power in 1666.
And they're just
Why
gonna
am
sit
I
there
the
and
one who's justifying this? I had problems with people getting axed in the leg.
Because it makes
I can
sense.
square this logic.
Yeah, because yeah. If Alan gets it, you need to get it, Ben.
I'm just saying that if I'm in a room and I'm like, hey, Pastor Miller, what's up? And he was like, hey, everybody, hook, and like
Well,
goes to kill someone, I'm not going to just sit there and be like, this is
well,
okay.
by the time you get there to the scene, right? Everything is barricaded, right? And everyone's
Kill
trying
one
to
kid at
break.
a time, maybe?
Everyone's trying to break the house down, right? So the kids could have been running around. He just like clickety dicky doo like the entire time. And
What was
then
that? One more time, Bobby.
Clickety dicky doo.
Okay, cool.
And then he
Yeah.
places them in the pews, right?
Bobby, can I get one more reading of that?
Yes. Slickety dickety do.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. You're so welcome.
They also
there's
did that
also-
scene really well with like walking in the what is it? Solomon walks in, and it's again, now that we have hindsight, he knows what's happening here because he fucking causes it. Seeing that like bundle of eyes just sitting on the floor, that imagery, I saw that, and the first thing I thought of was like Bloodborne. That is the kind of shit you'd see in Bloodborne, just a pile of eyes on the ground in a pew in a church.
Yeah, but it would turn into something. And
it would turn into something
boss
more
fight.
grotesque. But like, just it's so good, so good.
It's interesting that Solomon put Cyrus Miller's name on the wall, and then Cyrus almost goes after Seraphir, and Solomon has to kill Cyrus to stop him from killing Sarah, someone that Solomon loves. And then in 1976, Nick Good puts Tommy Slater's name on the wall, and Ziggy does get attacked, and Nick has to stop Ziggy from dying. We don't really get something like that in 1994, but it's an interesting little through line. The person that you love always gets attacked by... Yeah, whatever.
That is
Anyway.
an interesting little through line, isn't it?
Well, because I mean, then Ziggy is almost going to get attacked again.
No,
94
old
part
Nick
2.
puts her in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which-
yeah.
The corruption of power. Anyway, 1994. Let's talk about it. Come
Yeah.
out and play. You know what I mean?
How do we feel about it?
It's okay.
1994.
I think
It is
1994.
definitely the weaker portion of the movie.
I think that my succinct opinion on it would be that it over explains and then under delivers.
Okay.
I think this is a great third act of a movie that takes half of a movie to get through.
It's too long for what happens, and we don't see, like, there's this promise at times of it bringing like the slasher element back, and they really don't take advantage of it, I think.
I mean, Corbin and I talked about this a little bit on the side. We have to talk about the killer fight because that's probably the coolest bit in the
love that.
entire. It was
Yeah.
really good, but it wasn't there. That wasn't enough.
It was over
there's-
so fast.
It was 5 seconds
You
of screen
know
time.
that they
and then-
recorded so much more of that.
Then you
There's
see
no
all-
way that like.
You see all those
there's
dead
just-
bodies, and they're like missing heads and bits and
Yeah,
stuff. And, like,
there's so much more of that we just didn't get to have
Oh, yeah.
that I wish we did.
I-
To me, you could have done that as like a 3-4 minute long sequence and have like a battle to the death, and like one of them gets knocked away, and then it could have been really
It would
cool.
have gone to Freddy vs. Jason territory really quick, and it
Yeah.
wouldn't
I'm
have-
okay with that.
No, it would. I think that this movie is not that. And I think a 3 to 4 minute scene would make everything that came before it that, and I don't think people would like it.
I don't think it needs to be that long, but I think it should have been much longer than it was. Like, I do think that I think that it pulled punches on that part. And, like, 94 Part 2 feels very PG-13 compared to the rest of it. And I
For
think
no reason, too.
This is the TNT cut of Fear Street 1994.
and it being the big ending, like, I think that was a failure to me.
There were some really cool lines in there.
Yeah, I didn't hate it.
Like, you felt like an androgynous baby.
That was
great.
So,
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 line there.
I feel like I'm probably more positive on 1666 as a whole than most of us are.
I really like this entire movie.
I was going to say,
I really like the 1994 portion.
Me too.
Bringing up music again, like, come out and play, man. Like, what a fucking just opening. Like, that was so cool. But I mean, as much as I loved it, there are definitely things that I have criticisms for. Ruby Lane never did anything. And all three of these
this whole
movies,
trilogy for Ruby Lane to do something, and just going to bed sad.
Well, and it's almost worse because of 78, knowing that Nurse Lane, like, there's through
they're paving the road.
Her daughter does nothing.
Just absolutely nothing. So they sure as shit better give us a Fear Street Ruby Lane or something.
Yeah,
like
that's exactly what they're going to do. Are you fucking kidding me?
But Ruby Lane should have gotten, like, why did the creepy pervert milkman guy get a kill when Ruby Lane didn't?
Because
like,
he's farther down the line, and like, okay, you want to know the real reason? Because the real reason is sexism. Hot girl, they don't want to show hot girl get too many kills because she's already creepy with the singing. They don't really need to do it because creepy singing girl with a razor blade is scary enough that you don't need to see her actually murder anybody, because then she becomes less hot, which makes it difficult. It's it's Hollywood sexism in a movie that does a lot of things right. That's what I think the real reason is.
I wanted to see her slash that cop's throat. Like, that cop was going to die regardless. I want cut the creepy milkman guy out, paste Ruby Lane. Perfect. Like,
I think
give her one fucking kill.
I think the benefit of having the milkman there, from the actual movie's perspective, right, taking, like, behind the scenes out of it, is that it does expand the list of killers that you actually understand. You kind of already know what Ruby Lane is about. You have seen her in action, even though she hasn't killed anybody. And by giving the milkman some screen time and a kill, you're now sort of setting the stage for, well, what else can he do? What would his movie be like? You're already excited for Ruby Lane. If Ruby Lane wasn't in this movie,
McMahon killed Ziggy.
You would have already been ready for it.
I wanted Ruby to. I think that a lot of the killers were underutilized.
Yeah,
I think
they were always going to be.
There should have been more than 2 kills in 94 Part 2. Like, that was already, I think, a failing of having, like, 6 killers and 2 kills. I mean, I think that's immediately a problem.
I think the problem is what there's how many kills in 1666. There's already, like,
in the entirety of the movie,
technically, like, 20 something kills in that.
Well, I mean, let's not count the 20 kids that are dead.
If you don't count the kids, it's like 4, and that's including Seraphir.
Yeah.
And that's literally half of the other movies.
It's less than half. Like,
well, I
think 94
again,
had 7. So
this movie is, I think, one of the best. Like, this is something I've been saying throughout all these. I think this is some of the best popcorn horror you're going to get, which means, to a certain extent, you gotta have a somewhat happy ending, right? And you have to have them triumph, right? Especially because there's a weird monster squad. Like, I'm not gonna give it the Stranger Things thing, because I think it's more like a monster squad.
I definitely felt Monster Squad. I think that, especially with the full cast of villains and the whole thing. Exactly. I think that you could still had a happy ending where they're clearly winning without everybody surviving. Like, I think that this was a perfect opportunity to kill adult Ziggy. She already survived once. Like, then she could kind of die in the second one. Like, I think killing one of the characters would have been beneficial.
It's weird that they brought what's his face,
Martin. I was gonna say the only reason Martin survived is because the movie didn't want to have the stereotypical black guy die. Like
I like Martin as a character personally. I thought he was fun.
I like Martin as a character too.
But
I
if
think he should have died.
If he's the only character that dies, like then there's kind of a discussion there, and I think that's why he's alive at the end.
Yeah,
I think. Yeah.
But I also think that the one kill that I was disappointed with more than anything else in this was Nick Good's kill.
Absolutely
terrible.
Yeah, like I said, fuck, for all of the chaos he's caused, he dies so easy.
Yeah.
Like throw him in like the pit, like the
let's see like the devil goop melt him down or something.
And just have like arms and shit, like stab him and like have it like night Day of the fucking what is it? Day of the Dead, is that the one where like the guy gets ripped apart? Mm-hmm. Where he just gets and just have like fucking like Hellraiser rip apart. He's like and he, like that awesome. And just have like you want to see it, but it's so fucking gross.
I mean, I think Nick Good. I'm gonna rewrite it here. Let's do a rewrite on the Nick Good kill scene of this movie real quick. Nick Good fighting with Dina. Nick Good has the fucking knife. Nick Good cuts off Dina's arm or hand the same way that Sarah loses her hand. Dina pushes the knife into the goop thing, like happens, and then all of the killers disappear from killing Ziggy and Martin and all that, and like the arms of the killers like reach out of the because at that point Nick Good has attacked Satan or whatever, and then we go with your thing where like Ruby Lane's arm reach out and Tommy Slater's arm reaches out and Harry Rooker and the Milkman and the like all these arms like reach out and like start killing him. Oh, yeah, and I want it to be fucking gory. I want limbs ripped off. I want blood. I want eyes ripped out. I want it to be messy.
Yeah,
you want that Roth shit.
I think that's part of the problem, right? Is that like it's supposed to be very therapeutic, right? And when you kill the killer, you should there should be an ultimate release, I think, and he almost dies too easy to get it.
Yeah. Like they give you the whole like he's panicking, he's seeing the error of his ways, he actually has to live with the consequences, and then Dina just stabs him in the fucking face, and it's just like, eh.
Right.
I will say right after that, the callback to the book, that was fun. Yeah. That was a fun little callback.
Are you okay? And then she like opens her shirt and pulls the books off.
That was fun.
Yeah,
but it was just
Alan
silly.
hated it. Alan hated it.
I didn't hate it.
He didn't like it the first time either.
I didn't like it the first time. I didn't pretend. It was one of those. I'm kind of conflicted with it because it's one of those situations where I like that it draws back to the beginning. I enjoy that as a through line. This movie's good at through lines. This trilogy, I should say, is very good at trying to tell a succinct story from start to finish.
Yeah. But it's basically one big movie. I think that there's a clear benefit.
Yeah, and Maggie and I talked about that afterwards. Same kind of thing. This is basically just one movie. You can sit down and watch the whole thing, and it'll kind of flow well. But just, I don't know, man. Books to stop a knife, I guess.
Go get a phone book and try to stab it, Alan.
It wasn't a fucking phone book.
Go get a Goosebumps and try to stab it.
Yeah, no. Go get a Stephen King novel.
Okay, she didn't have the fucking Stand as her stand-in, all right?
She had a pulp horror novel. Those things are fucking thick as shit.
But they were paperbacks and not hardcovers.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I don't give a shit.
When I saw it, I
through that.
My issue is it wasn't like, oh, okay, cool. When I saw it and I saw her take it off, I rolled and I was like, oh, God, okay. And I don't know that's not the feeling you should have when you see your character live through something.
Full transparency. I mean, Jill did too. I watched the whole trilogy with Jill, and when that happened, she was just like, really.
Yeah.
But I want to talk positively about this plan that Josh came up with. Josh is the smartest motherfucker in the entire books.
The plan is so Monster Squad. It's so 80s kid preteen horror. Like it is 100% there, and it's a ton of fun, and it also is like very oddly not quite in tune with the vibe of the other movies. Like I think it changes gears.
It has like a
little
weird
stronger.
Scooby-Doo vibe.
It does.
Very
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo. I love the whole.
With 1994.
I think
it's really
the other ones are much more violent. Like this, like I think that the average 12-year-old would watch this and be fine, but the average 16-year-old would watch 1994. And I'm just throwing out ages randomly. But,
yeah, I see what you're saying. Like it's a little bit less fucked up.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. I don't.
I did like the plan. It didn't really make sense. Why would Nick Good even go there? But it's fine. I'm fine with it.
Because Dina knows.
Yeah, he has to kill Dina.
The killers are on their way. They're gonna do it. There's like 6 of them. What's he gonna do?
But he knows that you can get to the thing from because that's how he got to the mall in the beginning. He knows you can get there from there.
But why
So
go through the mall?
Oh,
Why not go
right.
the other way through his own house?
He might have.
You see him go through the front door. That's how they that.
I don't know. I don't.
I think
I think
that 94 Part 2 suffers from some of like the most egregious logic leaps, and that includes with the killers.
I think this is a fuck it, I'll do it myself moment.
Yeah, I don't even disagree with that.
Yeah,
I never, and I always give movies the benefit of the doubt, so maybe that's my fault. But like, I try to be entertained by movies, but like I was
entertained.
in this I was not even a little bit like thrown off. Like I was like hell yeah, this is fun, let's go. And like I was scared that they were gonna kill off Josh, and when they didn't, it was like fuck yeah, he made it. Like it like that, which felt like this movie like is so good because it does build off the last two in a way that gives you like you get scared to lose another character, and the fact that you don't is almost the similar catharsis that you'd get if Nick Good died a bad death. Like you're just like they all made it. Holy shit, they did it. Like because you know the risks at this point. Like it's bad if they lose. They're all gonna die. They're gonna die hard. Like,
and then in X amount of more years, more people are gonna die.
Yeah.
Do you feel like this one was more campy than?
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
the campiest out of all 4 portions.
For
usually.
sure. I mean, when Josh gets his arm broken and he screams, "Ah, my arm!" and
that's fine.
Well, I don't know. It just seemed cheesy. I hated the up, down, down stuff again.
Yeah, that was not a fan of that coming back.
And then
what about at the end
like
when his Twitter girlfriend talks to him about SSDs in 1994?
His AIM girlfriend.
You need SSDs, solid state drives. That'll help with your size problem.
Yeah, like okay, they existed, but come on, that was just.
Yeah, they were about I don't know. $15,000 a fucking kilobyte in that time period.
Yeah, but Martin was just trying to make iPods.
Well, and then I don't know.
Was
Deus
really
Ex. Deus Ex. I ran out of ammo also for the squirt gun scenes. Like first of all, how did you pick up the Super Soaker and not realize there's nothing left in it?
Yes! I had the same thought. I was like, oh yeah, let me just shoot fucking blood everywhere to find out if it's filled with blood.
As a side note, like, the blood is like neon or whatever. Shouldn't you be able to see it through the...
Shut up.
Listen, this stuff...
Like,
okay,
shit, I didn't think about that.
This stuff doesn't bother me as much as I'm making it seem. But after I really thought about the movie, like all these little things like came to me that I didn't think about with the other two, and that's why it stands out to me so much because it was there this time and not the other times.
Now, like, yes, there are all these things like issues, but like I didn't notice it, and I still won't when I watch it again. Like,
yeah, I didn't while watching. This is all like a post-watch.
Can I make a one thing that it's very non sequitur, but like it's something that always makes me cringe in every fucking movie that it's in.
The chair recognizes Bobby. Bobby, go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir. Fucking when people cut their
Oh
hands.
my god, yeah.
Yes.
Jill makes a comment about that every time we watch anything where somebody does that. She's always like,
I
why?
was like,
Why?
I always, every time, it doesn't matter. Like, there's grosser things. I'm like, fuck yeah, but like that, I was like, ee, ooh, ah.
Yeah.
I think I'm the only person who's still affected by it, and they keep putting it in movies for me specifically.
Oh,
It's
you're
'cause
like actually grossed out about it. I'm
Yeah.
just pissed about. I'm just pissed about
I
the
don't
logic
get it.
of it.
I don't
See,
get. I know
I'm on
it's a
Ben's
cliche.
side with it, yeah.
I know. No.
I'm
No, that's what
also
I'm saying.
there. I thought that's where we were
You're all
going.
normal. You're all completely normal, rational people. I'm the weird one because I'm still weirdly grossed out by it. Like,
See,
I mean, just watch Lord of the Rings a couple dozen times. You'll never think about it again.
that
Is like the deepest hand cut I've ever seen, I think.
It happens all of the fucking time, and like I've seen worse things happen.
Well, and like I think through a hand cut like that, like that's
like,
gonna
that's
suck
not
for
the-
weeks.
yeah,
And
don't
it's
cut.
not
Don't
the
cut
most
the palm of your
reliable way to
hand.
do
Do
this.
like a down your arm thing or something. Like there are so many other places on your body that if you need to get your blood out, like cut somewhere else, not here. Like you still need to grip a knife. You still gotta kill somebody. Like you don't want to grip a fucking knife after you cut your goddamn hand open.
But see, that's where my brain goes. Like, that's gonna hurt so bad for so long.
And
Like,
you know
and
she's
so
gonna
I-
live, and she just has to deal with that pain for like
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
next
still,
like,
and now
huge
she's just got
scar
a
on
big
her
ass
head.
scar here.
Yeah, and so like it fucking weirds me out every time. It does not matter the movie because they do it in kids movies all the fucking time too. Like they do blood oath type shit, and I'm always
Do a
like,
blood
no,
pact.
don't. Okay, like I don't get it. I'm weird about it, but it's something that like really bothers me, and this like it gets me every single time. And the fact that like it happened in this movie where there are other way grosser things, and I still did that. Like Sarah Fear gets
There's
her
even
hand.
I was gonna say there's
fully
grosser
chopped off.
hand stuff in this movie.
And I cringed hard at that, but that felt appropriate. I felt stupid when that happened in the moment. Just be like, no,
I
like,
love that.
ouchies.
Did Mallory
like,
make fun of you while watching that? Because I
She
could see her
doesn't-
being like, "Stop
she-
it, Bobby."
she doesn't watch horror movies,
Oh.
so no. But
There are so many different places.
I know.
To get the blood out.
I this meant to be a small thing, but I turned it into a huge thing. I can't do it. I can't even a little bit do it. It's
I need to reiterate that for the people watching at home, first of all, sponsored by Barks Root Beer. Second of all, I'm criticizing many things about this movie. I loved this movie. Like, I had so much fun, and these things that I'm criticizing were not something that like I was watching and it took me out of the movie while I was watching it. Like, I've watched the movie 2 or 3 times now, maybe, because I watch it at work whenever I don't have anything else to do. If my bosses are listening, that's a lie. I didn't actually do that. But like, I loved it, and then on like rewatch or re-examination of like, what did I really think of this movie? It's like, oh well, that was kind of campy, or that could have been done better. But like, while I was watching it, man, I was in. Like,
I'll just say this: it will reflect in my score, and it will reflect in my essentiality thing. I like this better than 78. And
are you gonna write a Yelp review about it too?
and that being said, is it better? It's probably on the same level, to be honest with you. Like, and I'm not gonna, we'll do the score thing when we do the score thing.
But you
like,
liked it better, is the point.
yeah. Oh, I
Yeah.
liked it way better. Like.
So I mean, we can
fun.
probably just
Yeah.
go for it, right? I mean, if nobody has anything else that they want to bring up, like what we've now mentioned ratings twice, like let's just rate this bad.
I just need everyone to acknowledge that "Come Out and Play" was an amazing song choice, and that was a great section of the movie.
It was
So
I will not move on until everyone says that it was fabulous.
it was great. I loved it.
It
Alan,
was fabulous.
It was fine.
Alan,
It was fine.
Alan.
That's
It
an
was
above.
fine.
That's an
Alan.
average to above average response.
It's fine.
So we rate movies on a scale of 0 to 5 with half points allowed. So 3, 3.5, 4 are all valid scores. Ben,
I wonder why
and-
he said that. Those numbers.
I think those are always the numbers that I pick, but this time I think that it's extra relevant. Ben and Bobby are both super ready and have already teased it. So one of you guys just go for it. What's your score on this movie?
I'm on the other side, Bobby, but solid
He is on the
3.5.
Okay.
I'm giving this the same score as I gave 76.
78.
I
78, my guy.
78. Sorry, I've
I
said
let you go-
76 like 14 times.
I let you go every other time. This is the last time. That was it. That was the cutoff.
78. There was just I thought that the 1666 portion of this was deeply unsettling and very creepy, and probably the most chill down your spine inducing portion of the entire trilogy for me. And I really liked it. I thought they broadcast that the good family was evil so hard and then took a way left turn and made us expect, oh, I guess the good family's not evil. And then it's like, oh shit, maybe they were. And so I thought that was done really well. I thought the acting was really great in this. It's a 3.5 for me. Very good film.
Bobby.
Bobbert.
I changed my mind. It's a 4. I was gonna give it a 3. I was gonna give it a 3.5. But I just realized I think I like the 1666 bit more than I like anything that happened in 78, and I found this 1994 part to be more fun. So I'm just gonna go for it. I really like this movie a lot. I think my bias is I like conclusions to trilogies a lot.
I was going to ask you about that specifically because you mentioned that last week, I think.
I like conclusions to trilogies a lot. I like the finality of it. Even though this has an open ending with the stealing of the book right at the very end. Yeah, it's a 4 for me, and it's going to be a 4, and deal with it, nerds.
Well, it has an open ending, but this is a really good conclusion.
Yes, if no other movies get made, I'm cool with that.
They answered every question that we had. We know start to finish what this was about.
Yeah.
And now all they can do is fill in little chapters in the middle or add the end. I agree with Bobby. I'm not going to change my score.
There might be some leaps of logic that you have to take, but there's no real plot holes. And so it's really good, and I think being able to end a trilogy like that is really well done. So, 4 out of
5. High five, Bobby.
You guys are like
you're on this side.
Yeah. Okay, Ben, you're okay. It doesn't matter. Portal. Think with portals. I am gonna take a page out of Alan's book and say that expectations played a large part in how I felt about this movie. I expected it to be a different kind of movie. I also, going into the trilogy, was anticipating it the most because I really like this genre, and I kind of had this thought in my mind about what it would be. I think that it's a little bit too long. I think that 94 Part 2 doesn't quite stand up. I think that both halves suffer from being part of a whole. I ended up liking this one the least, but I did still like it. I think it's a good part of the trilogy, but I think it relies on the other two too much. For me, it's a 3. For me, it's a 3.
So I also echo the same score, 3 out of 5. I have slowly went down a half point as we have gone from 94 here to 1666. And that's unfortunately going to continue with 1666 getting a 3. I think mostly what has been said is just the 1666 portions. I was very into it. I enjoyed everything I had seen. I was engaged. I liked all of what was happening. There were some things I could have seen. I would have liked to have more. Specifically, like I said, with Cyrus, I think it would have been cool to see him do more. But the 94 stuff just kind of existed, and it didn't do as much for me as I would have liked. So, enjoyable movie. I didn't dislike it per se, but it just kind of fits in that, bottom portion for me compared to the other two movies. So,
yeah, and it also it definitely doesn't impact my excitement for future entries, right? I mean,
I'm very excited.
I'm all
for more.
in. The director and the writer are ready. They're just waiting on the go-ahead, basically. And I think that,
Almost like that's going to reflect when we talk about essentiality.
yeah, I think that an upcoming TV show could be cool. Um,
Oh, an up like a mini series where it's like hour-long TV episodes for one for each killer.
I think that
Like
they
a
could take.
Goosebumps.
I think that they could take a page out of the current show, American Horror Stories, and do 1 to 3 part stories, depending on what it needed, and just have like a season of like 3 or 4 mini stories in it. I think that would really benefit from that.
That'd be cool.
What if
Yeah.
we get more Goosebumps, but done in a more modern, in terms of like horror, not necessarily modern in terms of time, but like,
I mean,
all right, now
I
I'm
think
gonna-
I'd like to get more Fear Street for in this style. I think Goosebumps I love and would love to see, but I don't want I don't know if I want.
You're telling me you don't
want to
watch Say
R-rated,
Cheese and
like-
Die? Come on now.
I mean, I absolutely
don't-
do, but I think it should. It's a different
Goosebumps
style,
is a
different
child
audience.
is a child show meant for children. I'm okay with it, but it's not going to be what I want anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it's
But
just
I
not.
think if this is what we can kind of take from that, I would like to see them explore other properties and kind of see what they can do with them.
I'm more into Corbin's idea. I'm gonna be real.
I think
Very real.
I think them pursuing teen horror with the Fear Street license is a definite thing that's going to happen. And Netflix will probably
I'm into it.
utilize this as their teen horror, and then Stranger Things is like the preteen, and they're going to kind of ride those age groups, I think.
I think
I-
you're probably right.
Before we move to the essentiality portion, I did want to bring up that we finally actually saw Fear Street.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was a little disappointed that Fear Street was just the street that Martin lived on. I wanted Fear Street to be the street that the mall was on. Like, why is Martin living on Fear Street? Why is that
Because I
where they
think
made a big deal
there-
about it?
I think there's supposed to be some like poetry there where the villain was like living on the street named after Sarah Fear, right? Like, you know, he
Wait,
is the
Good wasn't living on Fear Street. Martin was
yeah
on
was
Fear Street.
Oh, was it? I
Yeah.
thought that
Martin,
was
yeah.
I thought that was Good's house at the very end when they show Fear Street.
No, Fear Street was like they were driving to get Martin, and they
Oh.
flashed the Fear Street sign.
Well, there you go.
I'm like, put
Then
the
there's-
mall on Fear
then
Street.
what's the
Like,
difference? Maybe it is on Fear Street. It's just like way down.
I mean, Martin was the lead
Worked the mall.
custodial engineer, so maybe he just lived on a. You know what? They didn't tell us that the mall's not on Fear Street, so official
Show me
canon.
the map. Show me the map.
Official canon determined here by Essential Scares Podcast. Find us at essentialscarespodcast.com/map of Fear Street. And
It's just not there, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
Moving on.
I'm just making you guys buy domains. It's fine.
Is it
You're not.
essential?
It's okay.
Is it essential? Spoiler free, of course. And
Yes, of course.
we're gonna kind of be doing 2 back-to-backs. So is it essential right for the movie and for the trilogy? No spoilers for anything.
Sure.
Are we doing
For the movie
all 4 of us?
first.
Is it essential for 1666?
And then we'll yeah. So for the
Okay.
movie first, Alan, is 1666 essential?
Why you gotta start with me?
Because you're aching for it. I see it in your face.
No, I really don't think it is.
Yeah.
I haven't looked. My eyes are closed, and I feel like Bobby's making that face he makes
He is.
when he's upset with you.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I just don't. I think it squandered too many opportunities to really make itself be something that I think the average person should experience. We will talk more in the next portion of this because I'm going to kind of contradict myself,
Spoilers.
but that's just what
Yeah,
it is.
you are.
future
Spoiler
spoilers.
alert for my thoughts on the next portion.
Yeah.
I just don't. I think there were too many instances of missed opportunities with 1666 that lead me to think that it's not necessarily something you need to see. Again, these are going to be kind of contradictory statements, but we'll square that logic
What he's
in the
gonna
next
say
portion.
about the trilogy, guys. I wonder. I wonder.
So I agree with Alan. I mean, I don't think that this movie as its own movie is essential. I don't think that it's great colonial horror. I don't think it's a great slasher. I think that it kind of misses on both fronts in a little bit. I think that the base is there, and I think that it's a great part of the trilogy. But I think that I stand by what I've said on these 3 episodes, and that the first one, if you're only going to watch one, or if I'm going to recommend one, it's the first one.
I'll go. I think this half of the discussion is personally, and not to bash my own podcast here. I think it's kind of irrelevant.
Mm-hmm.
I think the trilogy part of the discussion is more important. That being said, I am going to, for the sake of being the only consistent one here, say, actually no, Corbin's already more consistent than Alan here, is say that it's essential. I think all 3 of these movies work in tandem together, and you're gonna want to watch 2. You're gonna want to watch 78 after 94 Part 1. You're gonna want to watch 1668 after 78. So like it leads you to want to watch the next movie to see where it goes. And I think that, again, while it's largely irrelevant, if we are going to think what I think most of us is going to say for the second part of this discussion, then all 3, including this one, have to be somewhat essential. So 1666 is absolutely essential.
I'm going to say no.
Benny.
Listen.
Wait a minute.
I'm cooler than all of you.
I think this is my favorite of the trilogy. I think if I were going to personally choose to rewatch any of them, I think this is the one I pick. And then my second place is 94, and then my third place is 78. I think that this one just had a lot of fun moments, but I don't think this one does anything that, like, when we talked about 1994, I said, yes, this is essential because this is such a good gateway drug into horror. And I think that 1994 is a really good horror movie from front to back. And while I agree with Bobby that yes, you are led into wanting to watch 1978, which would then lead you into wanting to watch 1666, you can watch 1994 front to back. It gives you everything you need to know. And then it sets up a sequel that you can watch if you want to. But I think it's good front to back. I think 78 does the same thing. Good horror movie front to back. You can watch it by itself. This one doesn't do that. I don't think this one is a horror movie that gives you a complete story by itself. I think this completes a really good story, but it doesn't give you a full, really good story by itself. I think a lot of what makes the 1666 portion really cool is the context that we have for the future of what happens, because otherwise it's one dude that went crazy and then another colonial town hanging a supposed witch, right? Which is kind of spoilers, but not really, because that's literally in every single trailer for this and single thing that you'll see online. So I'm sorry if I cut that out. Whatever.
Oh, you're tired, but so
well,
be cut out.
Oh well.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do not think 1666 is essential by itself.
Nice.
I feel like this whole time Bobby's sitting here like, I know I got Ben on my side. We're gonna be good. It's gonna be divided. But now we get to hear Corbin or you say it was decidedly unessential for 1666.
No.
So Ben actually made a comment there about that this is the one that he's most likely to rewatch. That was a question that I wanted to ask you guys. I mean, if you're gonna just put on one, which one would it be? I ran a poll in our Facebook group and on Twitter, and the resounding answer was 1994, with 1666 in second place. So Ben's lineup actually is exactly what people seem to be agreeing with. But Bobby, what would you pick? If you were just gonna put one on, not watch the whole trilogy.
If I'm gonna put one on, probably 94. But then I'm probably just gonna watch the whole trilogy, right? Like it's just like like you're just gonna be like, I mean, we should just watch 78 now, right? Like
yeah,
but because I mean, it like you said, it's basically one long movie, right? So if you want something that has a start, right? And kind of an ending, although the ending is much darker in 94 if you leave it there.
Yeah, if you just stop.
And 78, you definitely need both ends for it to work. And like 1666, if you're just watching it alone, it's kind of jarring. Even if you're watching like, this is something we didn't mention, but and I can say this without it being a spoiler. The last time on Fear Street Ball Z, for 1666 was actually really good.
That's true. Yeah.
I think they did a much better job than they did in say like 1978.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of a spoiler-free little caveat there that we didn't mention the spoiler discussion. But yeah, 94 probably.
Yeah.
That's my long-winded way of answering a very simple question.
Corbin, what one are you putting on if you're just watching one?
It's definitely 94, and part of that is the nostalgia. Like, I think that 94 hits me a very specific way, and I think it's because, I liked 78 for the Friday the 13th influences, but it didn't feel like an 80s slasher. It still kind of felt like a modern or a 90s slasher set in 78. But 94 kind of like hits a lot of those notes for me, so I'll probably watch just that one if I was gonna. But I mean, honestly, on the same token as Bobby, like, I think that I'm most likely to just watch all three if I were to put one on. I don't know what the odds are of me putting one on and then just like stopping. Sometimes I do that, but like, for example, last night in the Discord we watched Resident Evil 2002, and like as soon as it was done, I was immediately like, I think I just want to watch Apocalypse now. Like, I do want to just like go through it. So.
Well, I mean, we're talking about a situation where it's like I got 2 hours before I got to go do something else.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, if I think that if I were to just put on one, it's going to be 94. But then the next opportunity I have to watch one, it would probably then be 78. I'd work my way through it, but 94 first for sure.
Alan,
I'm also 94. I mean, it's just it was probably, I mean, it was my highest rated out of the entire trilogy. I really enjoyed 94 just as a movie to watch. I mean, it sets up obviously the next portions of the story, but if I'm just gonna watch one, it's 94, easy.
Nice. So, now that we've gotten all that all out of the way, is this trilogy a essential series in horror canon?
Yeah. So this is kind of an interesting. We haven't done this ever, right? You had to make the assumption that there's going to be more Fear Street, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just going to kick it off and say yes, and I think that's for a lot of reasons. I think that the Fear Street trilogy is essential, and I think that it's because, I've mentioned it a lot this episode, but I've meant it every episode. It's great teen horror. There's an element of like gore and fun that is often missing from mainstream horror that we've kind of lost as slashers have fell out of style. And this trilogy brings that back, and Ben has mentioned it more than a few times. It's a great gateway. I think that if you're like 14, 15 and you just toss on Fear Street, like, I think you're going to love it. I think that this is a great way to get into horror, and I think that you're seeing the community blow up not just because of its representation, which is important, and I mentioned a lot in 94, but because there's an understanding that this is going to grow the community. Kind of similar in ways that like Stranger Things did. Like, it kind of snuck in and grabbed people and brought them in ways that, I think people weren't expecting. So for me, it's a yes.
It's an easy yes for me. I don't have to contradict my previous thoughts, Ellen.
Bobby has said yes every time, I think, right?
Yeah, because it is. Like the writing was on the wall, right? Will the sequels to this? Hey, yo, what's up? Yeah, you caught that one. The pun was absolutely goddamn intended. But I think that, is there potential for this to go the way of every other slasher film and it go down in quality? According to some of us in this podcast, it already is, right? But has this not earned its rep of being an essential horror flick? Yes. It, like you said, it's bringing more to the audience. It's bringing more audience members. It is beautifully progressive film in the way that it is beautifully progressive. It is it's just it's the best popcorn horror I've seen in years, maybe even a decade. Like I could be wrong, but just fun horror. I don't know if I've seen anything better than this in like a long time. So there's that, right? It's just good. It's just a good group of movies that like they're fun, they're interesting, and they get the job done. And they have iconic killers, like several of them in one movie, which like it just hits
really good job with that.
It checks off every single box of like why this is good, why you're gonna fucking buy a Nightwing shirt that says Nightwing in deathcore letters, or you're gonna buy like You Only Hurt the Ones You Love, and it's gonna look all cute and it's gonna be really lame, but she's gonna have a razor blade and it's gonna be like, what's that about? But the merch builds itself. Like it's just good.
The Konami code.
Fuck off.
Nope. So yeah, because all three of these movies are essential to this series, it's got to be essential, baby.
Imagine saying no after saying yes 3 times.
Bobby just come in, Dark Horse drops a no.
And essential. The series, I could do without.
Yeah,
the big dick energy that Bobby would be throwing around would be wild in that scenario. Okay. I also say yes, but
nope.
I think that 1994 does the vast majority of the work needed to cause this entire series to be essential. In my 1994 review, I said yes, but we'll see how the franchise goes. I had it the opposite way around there, without necessarily knowing it ahead of time. 1994, to me, is pretty phenomenal. And I think the avenues that it sets up get paid off in the later movies in some ways, in other ways not so much. But I think the vast majority of us being ushered into the trilogy starts with 94. If 94 is bad, we're not going to give a shit about 78. We're not going to give a shit about how it resolves itself. We're not going to care about that. If 94 doesn't bring you in to actually care about what's happening and give an interesting plot line, you're not necessarily invested enough to watch the next 2 after they come out. Now, part of that is, at least in part, because they the production side of things built these all together, so they kind of had I mentioned this before, they had the ability to kind of think that through ahead of time before just releasing the first one, second one, third one.
I actually have a question about that after you're done and after Ben's done, before we wrap.
Okay, great. But yeah, that honestly pretty much sums it up for me. I think, yes, the trilogy is essential, but I think 94 does the majority of the legwork there.
Such contradictions. It's really embarrassing, really.
I mean, look, I'm admitting I was wrong in my 94 review saying yes, but that was a hard yes, and I just mistook that.
And you admitted so soon. Imagine waiting months for that one.
Right?
Ben?
This is a hard yes for me. I think that while I might not have said that 78 and 1666 were on their own essential, I think that this entire story as a 6-hour story is just so good. Alan asked me to be on the podcast, and I was like, "That's a horror podcast. Like, what do I care? I don't like horror stuff." And then I watched this movie because it was what I needed to do to be on the podcast, and I was like, "Oh, this is pretty good. I like this movie."
Point.
And then
Ben is literally the example of my entire comment.
Yes, I think I'm back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
Oh, I get it. It's John Rambo.
I think it's from the Matrix, actually.
So this is hard. Yes, essential. I think that if I have a friend who's like, "Hey, I kind of like, do you have any good horror suggestions?" I'm like, "Come sit your ass on the couch. Let's take the next 6 hours and watch Fear Street, and then we're good." Alan says he has a question.
No, wait.
Yes.
We need to stop for a second before we do any of this.
Okay.
We need to really appreciate. We really need to appreciate Alan's Predator joke. It was very subtle. Go back. We were all making dumb jokes, and Alan hit the jackpot. Okay, it was that good.
Look,
I thought you were
sometimes
going to
have
congratulate
I'm
me
still
on my
laughing about it.
Keanu Reeves John Wick impression.
I would never.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
So in '94,
The board recognizes Alan Gonski.
great. In '94, you
Just
said
doxed him just
it was,
like that.
It was the gateway drug.
Yeah.
Have you watched any other movies horror-wise?
That's a great question.
No, absolutely not.
It's a theoretical gateway at the current time.
Will you watch another horror movie?
Listen, I can quit whenever I want to. Okay.
So what's next?
No, I mean, I for sure will. I don't know. Like, it's weird because I think something that helps me really enjoy the Fear Street trilogy is that it's so clearly based in fiction. And the only time when you're like, oh, this is potentially not based in fiction is the first 30 seconds of the first movie when we don't know that there's like a whole witch thing going on and it's just like someone gets killed, right? Like that's the only time when it's like, oh, this could just be a crazy person.
Well, you don't know that for a hot minute from the first movie.
Well, I mean, like, right? No, because like Ryan Torres goes on his killing spree, and then the next thing that happens is Dina wakes up and goes to school, and Kate and Simon are like, "Ooh, the witch, the witch, the witch!" And it's like, okay, there's some shit going on here. So I think that what I need is the clear, because like I think that I don't know that I like fact-based horror or like based on true stories. Like, I'm not sure.
I love.
I mean, I'm just not sure because like I'm gonna break down one of my walls, you guys. I know I'm not generally a very vulnerable. I'm not generally a very vulnerable person.
Don't worry,
Bachelorette.
I'm gonna be vulnerable for a second.
Podcast or anything.
No, I'm just sitting here talking with my buddies. Like this is gonna be seen by twos of people.
Thanks, Dan.
It's definitely more than that.
So
I mean, there's 3 of us here that are gonna listen.
I said twos, so that means probably 2 or 4 or 6 maybe. So one of the big reasons why I didn't like horror for a while was that like I legitimately would be terrified by things, and like I would have nightmares and just be creeped out. So like when Alan asked me to be on the show and I had to play Resident Evil 7, I was like, I'm not playing Resident Evil 7 past 8:30. Like once 8:30 hits, like all horror stops and I go to something else because I gotta like clear the brain.
That's when horror starts for me. I don't do anything before then.
Well, but like eventually I was like, oh, this isn't that bad. Like Resident Evil 7, first of all, it was that bad, but it's not that bad in terms of it being scary for me. Yikes. So I continued.
That's a yikes take. So like, just drop that like, yikes right in there.
Resident Evil 7 was so bad, I hated it. But we'll talk about Resident Evil 8 next week. EssentialScares.com/Resident Evil 8. But like I would legitimately get terrified by things, so I just stopped watching. And I was like, it's not even that fun anyway. Like they're all predictable, but it's whatever. But I think that was like I was watching like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is based on a real story or what, and it's like
it's very loosely based on.
Sure, but like they put the splash screen up that's like, yo, this is based on real shit, and I'm like, oh, that means that there's a motherfucker with a chainsaw in my basement right now. So
what you're saying is you need recommendations that are clearly false, clearly fiction.
Yeah, like, I mean, if only there were a source of like horror, like a place where someone could tell me if horror movies were like good or not. If I could find something like that might be helpful. Yeah. But yeah, I need stuff that's gonna be like this,
maybe
where it's like
decide to be vulnerable for some random second for.
It's like if I could find more stuff like Fear Street, that's like clearly like, oh, there's a witch. It's like witches aren't real unless I get my letter to Hogwarts. But like, it's like this is all clearly based in fiction, and I can wrap my head around that. It's a fun time, you know.
Nightmare 3, 4, and 5. There you go. Those are 3 movies for you to watch.
Nightmare
Nightmare
on
on
Elm
Street,
Street, 3, 4, and 5.
3
Dream Warrior.
is the one that you derided last couple weeks ago. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Jason X.
I mean, but that's the thing. Like Jason X, I watched and never had a problem with Jason X, and I never had a problem with Nightmare on Elm Street. Is when I started getting into the more real stuff, and I was like, all right, never mind. Like,
Well,
like
I think,
Freddy
I think
versus
that there's plenty out there without getting into the real stuff. I think that we went through a period of time where Based on a True Story was very, very popular.
yeah.
And I
it
think
never
that in a
worked.
lot of ways we're out of that now. So I think
And
that,
based on a true story was always like it was always a way to like bring you into like stories that were nowhere near true stories. It was like based on a true story, and by the end of it, there were like fucking
it was
demons
like
that looked.
sky beams like from Avengers and yeah.
And I remember, like, even when I was younger, I went over to hang out with one of the neighbor kids, and his dad let us watch the original Night of the Living Dead, and that freaked me the fuck out. Like full nightmares. They're coming to get you, Barbara. Like, and then
I mean,
like
that's a classic of all classics for sure.
like I don't know. So I need stuff that's going to be closer to the Fear Street and farther away from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Like,
There's
and
a
yeah,
swath. There's a swath in between.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even worry about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am. I do think that yes, Alan inviting me on this podcast and saying play Resident Evil 7 and then you have to watch this stupid Netflix movie called Fear Street. Like, I think that probably brought me back a little bit.
Nice. I love that,
Love it.
honestly.
So we'll see.
It's a very happy, we have a very happy lifetime story happening here on this show.
Hey,
I don't fuck
so
around with
you
true
wanted to
crime
just-
either. True crime
Yeah.
fucking.
Well, I'm not going to ask you to get into true crime, don't worry. There's plenty of other podcasts for true crime.
Essential True Crime at essentialtruecrime.com/essential scares 1994.
Before we move on to our final segment, I had one question for you guys as part of the trilogy discussion. So, when this trilogy was made, produced, and finalized, it was not a Netflix original.
Okay.
Netflix bought this trilogy during COVID when the trilogy could not be released in theaters as originally intended. If you watched this trilogy in the theater 3 to 6 months apart or whatever, rather than week to week, do you think that would have impacted your opinions on it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
I think being able to consume these so close to each other has done a pretty big benefit, I would say, to the trilogy as a whole. Because everything we've seen is very fresh. The longest time differential between 1666 right now and when 94 came out is, 3 weeks?
3 weeks.
From date of recording?
Well, 2.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Because Friday
span.
to Friday
Yeah,
to
I mean,
Friday,
exactly,
2
you're
weeks
right.
total.
I'm going to challenge this. No. In a pre-COVID world where we were expecting this to be a theatrical release,
world.
where they would come out 3 to 6 months after one another, those would have been such quick releases, and for the quality of the movies that we got in 3 to 6 months, dude, are you kidding me? Of course we'd all be like, this is sick.
Yeah.
As soon as like I said, as soon as the next one gets out of the theater, the next one hops in. This is just so fucking cool.
I
think the
honestly-
challenge
yeah,
I would have to that...
I'm there.
Sorry, Corbin, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think for me, I would have maybe seen the first one, and by the time the next one would have been announced, I would have already forgotten everything, and I would have forgotten to even go and see them again. I think because I already own
Sounds like you
Netflix,
might need to put some time into a brain age, train your brain in minutes a day, because how can you not remember?
Probably.
the hit Nintendo DS game Brain Age.
It was a hit game.
We are
You're not
sponsored
wrong.
by Nintendo.
True. But I think just having there's almost zero barrier to entry because who doesn't have a Netflix subscription? It's so ubiquitous at this point. I think being able to just pull it up week over week, I think really did a big benefit to it compared to I have to consciously go and buy a movie ticket and go sit in a movie theater to watch these next couple of movies.
Yeah. I mean, I think that there was a benefit, but I think that I would have probably liked them as much in the end. I think that if I had seen these 3 months apart in the theater, I would have been cool. I mean, I think that I think that it would have been a cool way to bring a horror event back to theaters.
Yes, I agree.
I would have been down for that.
Yeah,
I think it absolutely affected whether or not what my thoughts on this were, because I think I would have said no if I had to pay for a ticket and go to a theater.
That's fair. That's a different argument for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like,
barriers to entry. I mean,
yeah, I mean, like,
easy right there.
I mean, not like before I came on, I would have told everyone, no, I don't like horror. I'm not going to do anything with this. It's fine. I have to pay $15 and go drive a half hour to the closest theater. Fuck no. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like,
they don't have closer theaters than that in the Void?
I live in Knightstown. Knightstown is 20 minutes away from any other town where the closest theater is.
For everyone that's been paying attention, if you piece together things that Ben has said from the last few weeks, you can easily find him.
Hey, maybe not, you know? Maybe don't give them more clues.
No, I mean, I live in Knightstown.
Shut up, dude.
my what's your home address?
You can find me at but yeah, I don't think I would have gotten in the car. I don't think I would have bought the ticket. I think if Alan said, "Hey, do you want to be on the podcast? We're talking about Resident Evil 7 and this movie Fear Street," I've been like, I'll play Resident Evil 7. I'm not gonna go to the movie. But the fact that I could I got to consume it from the safety of my own home, right? Like, and that's not like a COVID thing, but that's like if at any point in time. Because, like I said, I at one point in time got truly terrified by horror. So if at any point in time I was like, all right, this is doing a little too much for me, I could just click the stop button. And
but you never did, right? You never did.
No, I never did. But like I could have. Like I could have clicked the stop button and walked and like turned on Fairly Odd Parents or whatever. Whereas if I've paid $15 for a movie ticket and I'm sitting there, and here's the thing, if I was going to go see Fear Street, I would have gone to see it with Alan, right? Like Alan and I would have gone to the theater together. So I've paid $15, Alan's paid $15. If it starts to freak me out to the point where it's like, I can't do this anymore, like Alan and I drove to the theater together. What am I going to do? Just ditch Alan? So yeah, I think the fact that it was weekly releases definitely helped me, but I think if you're a horror fan, I think that I agree with Bob, like just trying to put myself in the shoes of someone who was a horror fan going into this, like I think that they could have done a really cool thing with that.
Nice.
That would have been so hard.
Wow. There you go. Well, there you go. That's been Fear Street, guys.
Yeah.
That's been Fear Street.
Speaking of Star Trek, what you guys been up to? Where can we find your handles?
All right, I'm going to go first because I'm a fucking winner. All right? So, as you all know, we record on a Thursday evening. I play disc golf the same time that Ben does, at the same place. I won tonight, all right? Is that a lot?
He beat everybody.
I beat everyone. No one had a better score than me, and it makes me feel great because it's the first time I've ever won effectively anything in disc golf. So that's what I've been doing. Also, been playing Resident Evil 8 in the background for the podcast. I'm about 2/3, 3/4 of the way through it at this point. So I will have plenty of thoughts on that game next week. You can find me at a Seal Punter just about anywhere. Instagram's going to be a ton of disc golf stuff. And then Twitter, I don't tweet much, but I'm pretty good at getting back to you.
Are you gonna Instagram those hot scores? Sorry.
Probably. I've meant to do that, but so again, for the audience's sake, I play disc golf, I get done with disc golf, immediately drive home, and sometimes I get to shower before the podcast. Sometimes I don't. It depends on how late
Alan
the
smells really
ground
bad
goes.
right now.
Oh, it's terrible in this room. I don't have the fan going. It's very bad.
This is a 2D podcast, and
Yep,
It's
and
good.
thank God, frankly.
Ben, yeah.
I also play disc golf. I did not win tonight. I did play. I played okay for me. I had like a pretty okay round for myself. You can find me at Hutch62191 most places. Other places at Just the Batman. What I've been doing? Play Death's Door, dude. Buy Death's Door on Xbox. It's only $20. It's a great little. Hey, Alan, it's a Souls Light.
All right.
So
That's all I needed.
It's $20 on Xbox. It's fucking phenomenal. Pick it up right now. You're gonna have a good time. Yeah, you'll see me next week on the podcast, and then never again.
That's not true. That's not true.
It's absolutely true.
Never again.
It's true. It's true. He's gonna be gone forever.
He is in the void, as you say.
Yeah, you can find me anywhere at Corbangarang. I do not play disc golf, thank God.
We got to get you out there.
Nope. Well, I've played with Alan. But I mentioned
Hit you in
it.
the face.
That's true. I mentioned it twice on this episode. I've been watching American Horror Stories, which is the new Hulu anthology. Every week they release 1 or 2 or 3 episodes depending on what's needed for the story. So like the first week was 2 episodes, this week was only 1 episode. Is really, really cool. It cuts a lot of the fat out of American Horror Story because it's only, a couple episodes rather than 10 for every time. And if you are someone like me who is a relatively casual American Horror Story fan, the first 2 episodes are basically a sequel to the first ever season, which is just a really, really cool way to kick off.
Really now?
Yeah, really cool way to kick off
now
the
I'm
anthology.
very interested.
It's on Hulu. It's a Hulu original. Check it out. Bobby.
You can find me at twitch.tv/theredweenie. You will catch me this week, quite possibly before this podcast goes up, playing Resident Evil 8, trying to get it done before we record in 1 week's time. You will definitely catch me on that same platform after this comes out, finishing it up. I'm not going to beat it before Monday. That being said, you can also find all of my relevant socials linked into my profile. Feel free to check it out. I do stuff. I'm relatively uninteresting. I play in bands that you can click on my links to, and I post pictures of me shirtless after gym and my dogs. So if you think that and you go, man, that Bobby boy's a dang old hunk, feel free to follow me on Instagram, I guess. Yeah.
Nice.
You'll also get to watch Bobby grow a beard over the next period of time.
Hey,
So.
we almost didn't talk about it, and then somebody who will never be on this podcast again, had to ruin it.
Even when we do cover Silence of the Lambs,
Yeah.
fuck you.
There's no way he would want... Silence of the Lambs is very much like a realistic story.
But I love it. I don't know why.
Hold on. If you're into Silence of the Lambs, I'm throwing out all of your specifications from before, and I'm just going to suggest anything.
Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, Hannibal. Come on.
Oh yeah, I'm going to throw a bunch of stuff.
You just ruined it for yourself.
Yeah.
You can follow the podcast anywhere at Essential Scares. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We've got a Facebook group. We've got a Discord. We'd love for you to come and hang out and chat with us.
We're very active on it.
We are, yeah. We're always all of us are on there chatting all the time, and we watch.
If you like
movies every
Warhammer
week.
40K, you'll get a lot of content of Warhammer 40K.
A shockingly large amount of 40K content.
Hey, Warhammer 40K is a dark fantasy franchise, and dark fantasy is horror adjacent. It all counts. With that, wraps us up for the week. Thank you, everybody, for being on. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This has
Thank
been
you to Bart's Root Beer for sponsoring us.
This has been a great episode. This has been Essential Scares. Thank you.
Play that breakdown, baby.